Hey everyone, Espira, and welcome back to the Super Combo Podcast. As usual, I'm joined by our co-host, Chris of UniX. Chris, how you doing today?
The energy is low, but the will to make content is high. So here we are, doing the thing. Doing it, and you guessed it, doing it well.
Yeah, absolutely. We did end up missing last week. I thought it important to give Chris some recovery from flying right back home from Fest, and on that same day, he still ended up grinding out some content. So your man never stops from the sounds of it, and as usual, you guys already know he's already putting out a bunch. But on that same topic, you had returned from Fest, and that is going to be one of our topics, touch base on Fest, Miami Fest, how we thought about that. And then, hey, since we're going to talk about an event, we did get a couple of announcements today in regards to what Q2 regionals are going to look like for IRLs at least. And then we got some reveals to touch base on. So, running right into the first one, Miami Fest. I obviously couldn't go. I had to play in online Fest instead. My experience online went fine. It was Canadian only, which was cool. It was like 80 participants, which is actually way better than I was expecting. I wasn't expecting at $65 a pop. I was not expecting 80 Canadians to show up to this event. And I had I had some of the best gameplay like I had ever played. So like there's this one opponent I had. Clearly new to the game, maybe just picked it up that same week. And like it had that game, and it's still a VOD on my channel if people want to check it out, I think. But that game had everything. Screen only showed his board. Also, his internet was only good enough so that it would like show one frame every about 5 seconds, which is fantastic. Hand basically up, bro. He comboed with 3 cards. And he's like 60k. I'm like, how?
Was he adding their actual power?
Yeah, bro. I was swinging for like 55 or 60, whatever, and he plays like, I think I was swinging for 55, and he plays 3 cards. He's like 60k. Like that's not 60, bro.
You should have looked at your combo power and been like, well, I'm at 80k.
Dude, turn 3. I asked him how many cards are in his hand, and he's like 17. What? I couldn't. He was playing Helku also, and I'm like,
wait.
There was. I could not tell for the life of me what was going on. But like, with new players, our game is like so skill intensive that like you can probably just take aim anyways. So like, even though I could have called judge like 100 times, like I opted not to, just let it flow. And then, bro, he plays Power of a Super Saiyan, and then next turn, as I'm swinging into him, he's like, "Hey, so is Power of a Super Saiyan once per game? Do you have a second one in your deck? Is that why you're asking me?" And it's like, no, I just put it back in my hand after the activate battle. I'm like, okay.
Well, absolutely not.
So that was a highlight. But overall, my event went okay. Finished top 16. I went to X2 with Sin Shenron, so can't complain too much. Cut was to a top 8 though, so unfortunate for me. And we did actually end up getting losing around 2, going to 1 undefeated, which means there was an X1 who did not actually make it into top cut, which I think is always super unfortunate.
It hurts.
Yep,
just a little bit.
Yep, and like it. And this had nothing to do with draws. There were no draws, but because you're an odd paired number of participants, there's someone, one of the players ended up playing a pair down in one of the last rounds, and then there goes one of the rounds that we would have played, which, one, potentially I could have been in top 8 contention. Who knows if I end up winning out my last round. And 2, it means that someone who's X1 doesn't get bumped out of bubbles out top cut. So it's unfortunate, but, things to learn. But so online regional was fine. People had fun. It was a good time. But Miami looked like it was popping off. The stream was doing incredibly well. You guys had like a superstar lineup of casters. You were on stream, and from what my stream was telling me, you killed it.
I mean, it was unfortunate. I'm not sure how many other players like. Red is already in a really good space right now. Dark Broly is weakened, but it still has moves. Dark Broly has been spotted at multiple tournaments, and in Europe, I'm not going to take anything away from Mert, but Europe had a 3rd place best Dark Broly list. That's pretty wild. But I just don't think my opponent was, I think he was a little nervous because he missed sequenced a couple times and seemed kind of unsure. But he really couldn't have found like too many worse opponents for him to have faced when it comes to Dark Broly. I was just like, I know your moves before you do. Like, it just, it felt so easy. Like, Like he's like, ah, yes, Demigra. And then like I watched the stream, like Giancarlo and Frank were just like, oh yes, Demigra's such a good card. And oh, there, Chris just swung in Realm of the Gods. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, he Demigrate again. That's really tight. Oh, and Chris just swung in Realm of the Gods again. Okay. And like sometimes it was like brutal. It was like 17 like swing Realm of the Gods. And it's just like, okay, deal with this 25k double striker. And by the way, get that Demigra off the field because I don't want it here. It's just like, I don't know, man. It felt like really bad because at no point did I feel in danger with that deck.
Yeah, I mean, I managed to tune in for the first 5 to 10 minutes you were playing. I'm like, oh, he's playing against Dark Broly. He's fine. I like Chris has so many reps with this deck. He knows what's going on.
This is very true. This is very true. So yeah, that felt a little skeezy. Unfortunately, afterwards I fell into the rogue tier. Well, not the rogue tier at first. I faced Ivo at like table like 6.
He was on Hatch.
Was it table like 11? Yeah, he was on Black Hatch, and I lost in time. Not even like a gajillion things. Like I had multiple swings left. He was at 3 life. I was at 2 life. And the roughest part about a losing like that is because I still had multiple things in play. I had I had like New Ruler in hand. I had Vegeta's +1. Vegito Unison's +1 that would have put a vanilla onto the board. Like, if I could have just resolved all my attacks, there's a high probability I'm getting him down because I was going to +1 with Vegito after swinging with it, and then I was going to play a 2-drop of Unison and swing with that. I had about even under Hatch with my leader, Vegito Unison, and my own second Unison, plus swinging with Divine Presence twice. I had a lot of attacks lined up. And Amani was there at the end of it. Ivo said if we did not have time, I probably would have won that. But even if we had like another minute on the clock, perhaps getting all my stuff out, +1ing, playing the Unison, which, by the way, when I play a Unison, like, there's just so much. There's so much that makes me super sad there. Because if we had the same amount of life, I would have had more things on board.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. I faced Michael Friend afterwards, and that one was when I knew it just wasn't my day, and the tournament just wanted me to fail. Because I thought that matchup was going to be an auto scoop, for Yamchas, and I saw no Yamchas in a Gohan deck.
Feels bad.
This dude had like 5 tokens on board. Like, I couldn't do anything about it. I was like, wow, this sucks. So that's when I knew it just wasn't my tournament. And then to add insult to injury, every other table was playing Red U7 Goku, and I just like really wanted to face that matchup all day. I only faced one, and I beat him, and he ended up in top 16.
Hey.
That makes me feel awful. Like, that makes me literally feel awful. Oh, I would have feasted if I just saw a bunch of U7. Anywho, with that being said, Miami was pretty cool. It was a pretty smoothly run tournament, but that's what you can always expect from PPG. Gogeta Zeno taking it is wild. And granted, we can say that best of one pre-side, even though it's better than just best of one pre-side still leaves a fair amount of variance up,
Of course.
But it is surprising that Gogeta Zeno was still, even with his variance taking consideration, was still able to high roll its way through that many rounds. Because we have all seen what happens when Gogeta Zeno mills meh. Like, you can mill on point, you can mill decent, but when you like flip over 2 out of your 3 super combos on turn 1, and your opponent just understands from the rip they could be a little bit more aggressive with you, it sucks. You can mill super combos and no Xeno Trunkses and just be like, am I the idiot? Like, did I play the wrong deck? Is this my fault? So it is interesting to see that. Things I did not really think were unexpected. U7 Goku by far was the most represented deck. Despite me dodging all but one of my rounds being it, and by dodging I mean like missing because I really wanted it, every other table was playing U7 Goku. Like, literally every other table. It was insane. There's a fair amount of yellow Trunks there as well. That was surprising. And it even got to the second round, which is wild. Before you guys start to get up here and say yellow Trunks Vegeta is like really, really good, do not be fooled. Yellow is still powerful. It's just, this is the best archetype you can use it with. Like, if yellow didn't have riposte and, if yellow didn't have yellow cards, Trunks Jita would just be in the same waste bin as half the other archetypes. Like it's got some cool one drops. Its leader does cool things. The built-in Champa is cool, but it's still yellow's defensive properties that even keep that deck in the game. So
That's,
I don't know.
I mean, I find the deck annoying for sure, and I mean specifically the Trunks cards are annoying.
I think it's weird. They have offensive capabilities, and normally yellow struggles with a way to beat you down. Yellow normally grinds you out, and I find that yellow Trunks is unique in the sense that it's it has some really good punchy cards when it comes to yellow. So the defense holds up like normal, but that SR can really chip you. And then you have like the blockers and the Vegeta evolve, and the blockers is weird too. But the only thing is that I don't know, the blocker is it's like Poutine, except I feel like it's almost easier to deal with. The funny thing is that they can both be triggered at the same time. Yes. But depending on your deck, it may or may not be easy to do so. Like if you're playing U7 Goku, you play a Frieza or a 17 and you just trigger Poutine and Trunks immediately, and then you just continue about your turn. But like I don't know, it's really weird. I don't think the deck is bad. I don't think people I don't think people were right for calling it trash. I don't think people were right for calling it Icarus 2.0. I think people are right on the money when they say it's Icarus light. Like if it existed in the same format as Icarus at full power, Icarus would just body it every single day. But in a format without Icarus, it is the de facto best non-sin yellow deck.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, I mean, pretty much that's all I really have to say about Miami. Miami actually was pretty neat in the sense that it didn't shake up any of the status quos that most people put out. If you had paid attention to the previous tournaments, read cards, and done any amount of testing, Miami pretty much fit directly what your expectations were. And I think that's the sign of a maybe not perfect format, but I don't know. Like it feels good to be able to look at a format, make predictions, make educated guesses, test a little bit, and then for it to actually be kind of solidifying like look of the format. I like that.
Yeah, same. I mean, it is best of one, but like there's only so many times we can say it's best of one when like realistically the majority of tournaments in a season for Dragon Ball now are best of one tournaments. Yes, the most competitive tournaments end up playing best of three, but the way that the game is played the most is best of one. So you while yes, you have to take it with a grain of salt, it's a grain of salt that you kind of have to accept that makes up the majority of the goddamn, jar. So, when we go down the breakdown of top 16, which by the way, just quick note, PPG, some quality control on like whoever makes these posts would be like fantastic. Because Red U7, like you said, most populated deck, which leads to the most representation with 6 in the top 16. There are like 4 different ways that Red U7 is represented in this like deck top 16 breakdown. There's Red Sun Goku, Red U7 Goku, Mono Red BT16001. That's it. Red Supreme Warrior. Like there's just some consistency would be cool.
Yeah.
But so as far as the top 16 goes, Goku and like the rest is like, hey man, this is the best of one event, and this is kind of what you have to expect. Since Shenron, I think a big contender that people think is doing incredibly well. Gogeta Xeno, you're gonna see it in some numbers for every player that low rolls into like milling all their super combos. There's one that high rolls into a turn 1 thwarting every single game for the entire tournament. Like that's just the reality of it.
Don't you wish that evil upon people?
King Piccolo obviously has been like shredding this first month of the competitive season. SS4 Vegeta, one of the de facto yellow decks or blue decks. King Cold, the only reason that green exists as a color in this game right now.
Wow, you would never things you thought you would never say in your life. King freaking Cold. He puts an entire color on his MF back, bro. He's going in. He's going in strong. Homeboy cannot be done. Like, that's so crazy. What did King Cole do on the show, man? He showed up, talked a whole bunch of shit.
He died in 5 minutes. That's what he did.
He took Trunks' sword. He was like, what if I told you that I thought all your power was in your deck and you were a terrible tier fucking 5 player? And then Trunks is like, at least tier 1.5, and it just blew him out. I was like, oh no. Like, but we have King Cold here being a gimmick beyond gimmicks. Like, dude can't combo, but hey, bro can accelerate. Bro's got Green's gimmicks. Bro's doing things. Like, bro is hitting you for double strike more times than you care to get hit for double strike. Like, I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
I'm very much fond of, and like, let's be real here. Like, we say green deck in the sense that like the deck plays green cards. It's not a green deck because the archetype has like 40 cards in the deck. But hey, at least you can say on a theoretical, technical level, yeah, green is out here. The deck's just solid. I mean, like you said, like it's not only the fact that it's double, like you can line up double strike swings from a leader every single turn, but usually it's 25k double strike swings, which means that if you're an archetype that punishes battle card play, you can play solo with the leader until turn 4, turn 5 easy. Otherwise, you can go for an aggro line where starting on turn 2, you can start dishing out dual attack freezes, and then more dual attack freezes into like the 5-drop gold Frieza, which is like super solid. So,
you want to know something funny? Y'all talking about Invoker being the absolute truth. A leader that just starts swinging double strike with this leader over and over again is kind of like Invoker Bane. I won't even hold you. like, you know what Death Beam cannot hit? You guessed it. Like, it's pretty funny that way. It's honestly kind of funny that way.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so the deck is super solid. It's not what people want out of green, but hey, at least it's there, because otherwise, if it wasn't freaking cold, the greenest thing that would exist in this fucking meta is the fact that King Piccolo has like a green body, and that's about it.
I mean, that's facts. He's green by nature. But no, like, Espira is right, though. I mean, King Cold is to green what Sin is to yellow. Like, they just happen to play the card color, but they are very much so their own decks.
Pretty much. But basically holding it down, we have a Mill Cooler, to be expected at this point. There's a lot of, dig deep decks at this point in the game, so Cooler will do well if it sees some resilient matchups. Soul Striker, you always see a Soul Striker or two somewhere in the matchup, whether it's blue-red or blue-yellow. There's some variation there, and odds are people will play it to decent success. You got Trunks and then Android 21, which blue-green between Android 16 and Android 21 for the past month, we've been seeing smattering of results with that color combination, because some decks just don't deal well with the fact of everything that blue green does. Plus, like, it has an innate burn that's not really super interactive. So like there's lots of ways for that deck to be able to get there. And I do think it's one of those decks that people don't respect enough to have in their gauntlet, that they don't totally know how they're supposed to go into the matchup. So
yeah, 100%. And then you face King Cole and you're like, hey, how come nothing is like working the way I thought it was going to work? And then, like, a King Cole player is just like, I live in the shadows. You merely adopted. Like, it gets like bad. It gets bad. Like, one moment you're thinking this is a joke deck, and the next moment you're at 2 life. You realize you've been double struck by the leader like dead ass 5 times, and you're like, this is not a safe position for me right now.
Yeah, not very daijobu.
So yeah, you're right about that one. What's the rest of that breakdown?
I mean, that brings it all together for the top 16, and a lot of variety. But again, this variety is very standard for best of 1 formats. That's just the way it is. But I don't think there's anything too incredibly shocking. Every single leader on this top 16 has topped an event within the past month. So standard fare, right? Nothing too shocking. Red U7, the most represented deck at the tournament, which has been supports the numbers we've been seeing across the board. Particularly because I think Red U7 is one of those decks that, because the game plan is so like, okay, this is what you're meant to do, I think it's one of those decks that are very easy to pick up and you can have decent success with. The cards are very well statted, they have good effects, they give you board control for free, and then you have one of the best finishers in the games at the moment, in a color that's gotten some pretty good support over the last couple a little bit. So I think that not only is the fact that the deck is good, but the fact that it has a low barrier to entry is definitely what helps its population size be what it is at the moment.
I was about to agree and I choked on spit. Sorry. I gotta be honest. They can't see my reaction, so I had to let them know what that weird little hiccup was. Yeah. There's nothing else to add on to that. Sometimes statements are completely factual and perfect.
Yeah. So I mean, this is the meta supposedly that we're going to have until the next set release, which we've got reveals, which is great. We have an idea. Are we okay with this? Do we like this? Do we think this is fine? And, you know, I think a lot of people were, some people were doom and gloom about King Piccolo beforehand, but we all know that like if you just respect King Piccolo and make sure you have enough stuff on your side and you're able to see it, you know, Protector of the People, what have you, against like battle card spam the way that the deck does. You know, we know that the deck's beatable. So overall, you know, looking at like not only top 16 but the population size, yourself from playing in Miami, myself from playing in a couple of online tournaments. How do we feel about this? I feel fine. I think the game plays okay. Like, are there some decks I play up and against? Like, okay, let's see how it goes. But like, I'm not upset about the format at the moment.
Okay, so the way I feel about it right now, I actually do think it's pretty fine. Like, people are like, "Oh, King Piccolo needs to get hit." Now, look, King Piccolo is still like King Piccolo puts free cards on its back, like the last free player. Like that's essentially what King Piccolo is right now. Like every other deck got to pay for their cards. It's actually one of the reasons why, like, while both decks can get folded to the same secret rare, if a King Piccolo plays a secret rare against an established U7 Goku player, U7 Goku player might even just pack it up. But if it happens the other way around, U7 player still has to close out the game because Piccolo will take 2 turns and have its board back. Only because King Piccolo will actually keep a hand and plays its stuff for the most part for free. Now, that being said, King Piccolo, like you said, King Piccolo, as long as you respect King Piccolo, you shouldn't get folded by it. It is hands down, I think, the best deck in the format, pound for pound. But you have things you can do to it, per se. Like, why am I blanking so hard right now? Like, if you're in red, Wolfang Fist, great against the deck because most of them start off as base 15s and pump afterwards. Your Yamchas are going to go a fair amount of the way too. They're just going to get smoked by Piccolo. But there's even like etiquette that you can do when you're facing them. Like, most people swing once to get their leader's effect, put Piccolo down to 5, and then Piccolo plays his unison, and they're like, ah, crap. I swung, and he tested me up, and he Scion me, and he blocked, and how come I'm not getting through? Well, you put him in test me out range. Like, you literally did. Like, that going second, that first swing was not worth it. Because if you don't swing, they play like, you brainstem check them. And I'm sorry, if any of you guys fall into this line, I'm not calling you stupid. I'm just saying you might not have played against the right players, or you got rewarded for the wrong plays. Because I am going to skip swinging going second. Because I want my opponent on their turn 2 to decide whether they're going to go without playing their unison, or whether they're going to play their unison, and I know that I just have to produce 4 swings or 3 swings if one of them is double strike because of Scion. Like, that's just kind of immediately how it goes. If you're at 6 life and you play your unison, you can't testing, meaning the only thing you can do when I swing on it is play a Scion if you have it. If you went first, your hand is a little smaller than mine. There's a fair amount of chances that you do not have Scion in there. Maybe you mold for it, maybe you should, but it's just things like that, like small little pieces of etiquette that will keep you in the game. Because once you destroy that unison, if you can apply pressure, it will forever be awkward for them to try to reestablish it. There's no just tapping 2 in a red matchup without losing momentum. That turn 2 is the turn you were supposed to play it, and then cruise from there. So you kill that unison on your turn 3, and they have to sit there wondering if they need to skip a turn to essentially play a Piccolo or never play Piccolo again, in which case that's an even bigger problem because your Yamchas and stuff are coming in and providing extra bodies. So I guess my point to that tangent is Piccolo is not unbeatable. It is a matchup you have to thoroughly learn and know how to tech inside against. And if those things are there, yes, you could still have an uphill battle because King Piccolo is the freest of the decks right now, but you're not going to get just folded without any difficulty, unless your deck is just bad, or you just don't do anything I just talked about in terms of learning the matchup. Now, Sin is pretty much weird. I do think Sin needs to go, not because I just hate it, but because I feel like different colors are more or less prepared for Sin. I think Red actually has one of the best Sin matchups that exists, mainly because with Blue, you run the risk of getting, you have God Sealing, but they have a whole bunch of 30Ks. And if they establish an 8-drop and start removing anything that can give them double strike, or they just triple strike your freaking unison. Like, if you ever get caught lacking and you don't have God Sealing when they go to use their tap 6, you just lose.
Yeah.
But red is in an awkward position because red not only has Realm of the Gods like everybody else does to deal with the skill drain. By the way, I personally feel like if there aren't at least 3 copies between your main and side of Realm of the Gods, call me a scrub, but I don't think you're doing it right because no deck likes to play under 9-drop Sin. Like 0 decks like to play under 9-drop Sin. But red is in a unique position where we have Vegeta Unison. And there are cards that are sometimes very, very goated going first. But Vegeta Unison can be used first or second. If you're going first, you play it on your turn 5 or your turn 6 going into their turn 6, and you keep up 2 energy, but you can -2 and know they can't tap 6. But if you go second, you can play it on your turn 5 going to their turn 6 and do the same thing with one less mana going in, or energy going into their turn. So I think red actually has the best utility, and we have a secret rare that blows up things. Like, I think red honestly has some really good stuff. Like, just knowing that you can go into your turn 4 and blow up their board, and then go into your turn 5 and shut them out of reestablishing it. And they have that one gap turn of trying to make sure they can put anything on board. It's just crazy to me. But other colors aren't so fortunate. Like, if you get to turn 6 against Sin versus black, I'm sorry. Green, I'm sorry. Blue, not as bad, but I'm sorry. Certain yellow decks, I'm definitely sorry. It's just, Sin is the most cancerous to me. It has the most like weird, uninteractive style of play, and the trick bind on the stick is just actually way too strong. Plus, yellow doesn't really get to play like yellow in Sin, but the cards they can use, like Swift Retaliation, Cooler, Final Flash, those are still very powerful cards. But besides that, I really do agree with you. The format's pretty good. U7 Goku is strong, super, super strong, but it's got its weaknesses. Actually, I don't want to spoil it too much, but I've got a fight night coming out later this week, and it's U7 versus U7. And I tried to showcase exactly some of the things that I did not play U7 Goku for. It's just, there are ways to get through U7, and there are ways you can set yourself up. Maybe I'll do like a little like blurb on that if you guys want. Like, I'll just like sit there and do a video on it. But yeah, there's nothing in this format that screams, yo, this sucks, except Gogeta Zeno. But Gogeta Zeno is like that's a double-edged sword. Like, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Like, RNGesus will bless you or he'll curse you. And sometimes it feels really bad when RNGesus just lets a dude just like set your entire life pool aflame. But at the same time, when a dude has 3 super combos between his grave and his warp and he hasn't used a single one, yeah, RNGesus just gave you like an in. So yeah, I kind of agree with you. There's nothing wrong with this format right
Yeah.
for the most part.
I'm not inspired by the format, but I don't think anything's wrong with it. And to that, I maybe just allocated to the fact that Unison block has been here forever. And we'll see how the reveals in this last set for the block kind of shapes up into giving it like a little like sunset format. But I wholly welcome the new block, Z leaders, whatever they entail, and bringing something fresh. Because don't get me wrong, like I said, nothing wrong with it. I'm just not inspired, and I think it'd be nice to have a fresh coat of paint on kind of like the format once new stuff gets introduced, and arguably probably power creeps us into a new realm of the game. Yes, no, maybe.
I mean, that didn't end with a question mark. I said I dig it because like I thought you ended on a period, not a question mark.
Well, I mean, just kind of fair enough. But yeah, so it'll lend itself to just kind of considering, where things go from here. We'll see what the new stuff shakes up. Which we will talk about the reveals in just a moment. But so we covered Miami. We talked about the fest events and basically everything that happened in the month of March. From the looks of it, at the moment, they made an announcement in regards to the next set of regionals. Now, I will say people are spelling doom and gloom about this, and I understand where they're coming from to an aspect. But there's
I'm ready to fight.
but there's also, these are also just IRL events, right? They don't account for. Okay, well, to context, Bandai released the latest wave of IRL regionals, or the first wave this year. which is huge because we don't. Did we even have like a singular IRL regional last year? I don't think so. I can't remember. I think they were all webcam.
Um,
Um,
last year?
yeah,
No, I got my invite at Gen Con.
yeah. There was Gen Con, yeah, but outside of Gen Con, I think that was pretty much it.
Yep.
So they have for North America, they have Core on May 1st, and they have Next Level Games in Tennessee the 7th of May. Oceania has TAC on the 1st of May, and Europe has 2 on June 3rd and June 5th. Now, I have to agree with the community. For IRL events, you really do need to give your community more than just less than a month's time.
No, you were supposed to bring us into the light, not betray us or turn us
No,
to darkness. All right. No, keep talking, keep talking. I'm gonna come out. Sorry, guys, you're about to hear mommy and mommy argue a little bit.
I'm just saying, I understand everything that goes into the logistics of figuring this out. Getting TOs, getting venues, making sure that everything's confirmed, especially in a pandemic world, which, well, yes, for a lot of places we are post-pandemic. That's just it. We're post-pandemic. We're not normal at the moment, and there's still a lot of things to consider. So should have these IRLs been announced earlier? Yeah, people need to get PTO. People need to, figure out things with their family. People need to put money aside, etc. Which, of course, with some, foresight into the fact that like IRLs are going to come this quarter, like they had announced, you could probably kind of like work your way towards getting those things lined up a little bit early. But at the end of the day, without hard dates, it's kind of hard to say. So I will give the community that one token on that front. But there were concerns that we're barely going to have any regionals this year. By the way it's lining up, looks like we're only going to have 2 regionals a month, which means NAS is going to be sub 100. Shout out to Mike. But like, first off, these are just IRLs. There's going to be more offline ones, I guarantee, for this quarter, probably even in April, probably the last couple of weeks. And I don't know anything, but these are just kind of my guesses. And then more so to come throughout May and the month after that. So like that, I think in terms of having enough competitive events, I think we'll be okay. And if anything, like I think as a first foray into IRL events, I think 2 in May is great. And then I think that lends itself to opening it up, even more down the line as we go into the third quarter. So I think while it is baby steps, it is nice to hear something. It happens. Yeah, they said, they're going to announce events for Q2, of which that contains April, and they announced it at April. That's not, super hot, but it is what it is. And, having worked with the back ends of these kinds of things, I understand where a lot of the delays and stuff might be. So
Factual. All right, so here we go, because I'm gonna let you know, fam community, I've been a little upset all day, and I've been trying not to go in on Facebook. But look, here it is. All right. What burns me up is that a lot of people are so quick to complain, but when they complain, they don't do so logically 9 times out of 10. They like forget everything that led up to this point and then just start spitting like this is solidified fact. Okay. Today, I heard people compare Bandai not caring to Konami being like the savior of TCGs. People are saying that because Bandai released a schedule a month away, which is very, very short notice, that this makes them inferior and less caring than Konami, who canceled a YCS within 8 days of it happening.
Yo,
Like,
I remember that.
people
That was
had
tall.
plane tickets, hotels. The YCS was canceled in the same week. Until Bandai does anything on that level, I don't want to hear it. I literally don't want to hear it. People are talking about how, oh, well, Konami has like all this stuff that's going on. Like, did y'all forget that the last 6 months of Konami, there were no in-person events? Not only were there no in-person events, they canceled said YCS, and without even apologizing, they really just left like a note on a page, and then they started pushing Master Duel. They did not give a single fuck.
Nope. World's canceled, 3rd year in a row.
Like, yup. Like, and people are like, oh, this. And then people are also like, well, Flesh and Blood gets to do. Okay, look. Also, I'm going to say shut up about that, too. Because, like, I'm going to be real. Flesh and Blood, just, like, say what you want. Everybody has their preference. I think the game is fairly low skill cap. But you know what? I'm going to just move on aside that and just talk logistics. When you talk about regionals or, events like that, there are many people that can TO, but there are brick and mortar stores that do small things, pre-releases, store championships, small things. Maybe ARG back in the day would give out kits for them to do events. But then you have large scale TOs, you know what I mean? PPG, core TCG, like things like that. A small TO may step up to the plate and do more when they are motivated to play a game. And when you see like things like this, like I'm not saying this is what's going on, but like, look, you have to find a TO. You guys have to agree upon what money you pay said TO. Once you have that in place, you can then start looking at venues. And these venues have to be a balance of multiple things. Depending on the state, you may have different laws about how many people you can have at a gathering, whether they require gatherings of a magnitude like this to require vaccine. Because Bandai is trying to get away from that. Like, I think they might have done it once, and it was very not viewed well by the community. So now they're not trying to do that anymore. I'm not sure if Gen Con was like you had to show your vaccine. I think I had to bring my card to Gen Con, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it's like you really do have to figure out what the legislation is for that place for your gathering. You have to find a location that the TO is willing to travel to. You have to, like, there's so many things, and you can't do them at the same time. You're not going to book a venue before you know if a TO can even host your tournament. So these things have to happen in sequential order. So really, what you guys are like saying here, when you're like, we should have known earlier, what should happen? This is a question I'm posting to you guys. You can put in the comments of the YouTube video. What should happen? Should a TO release an event a month ahead of time, which is very short notice? Or should they finally get all these things in order and go, you know what? This took too long. We're canceling on the venue. TO, I'm sorry, we're canceling on you. And we're just going to wait until we have to try this another time in the future to try it again, and hopefully we get better notice.
Well, or option C, they could have started earlier.
I mean, this is true, but like, it's, I guess the thing when I say like people forget things all the time, we've had seasons of DBS where like they have given us plenty of notice for events.
This is true.
And granted, this is me giving them the benefit of the doubt, and that is on me. Call me a shill, do what you want. But I feel like if we've had so many cases of them giving us well more than enough notice, and then during a clearly awkward time when it comes to putting things together, we start getting all these shiesty kind of moves, I feel like it's more likely that they are giving it to us whenever they can, not that they're choosing to just fuck people who want to travel. Like, it makes them, it does nothing bad for them or nothing good for them to let us know this late. And like, they have let us know early before. It's like the one person undefeated rule thing. People are like, Bandai needs to kill this one person undefeated rule. Like, how could they do this? How could they make such a rule? And I'm just kind of sitting here, I'm like, they do know that like while we're sitting here for like a 12-hour event, they're like doing work and living life and going to sleep over in Japan. They don't give a fuck how long our tournaments last. You know who does give a fuck how long our tournaments last? The judges that had to show up an hour and a half early and then still have to clean up an hour past. The judges care how long the tournament goes. The TOs care how long the tournament goes. So when you look at rules like that and you're like looking at the wrong people for why they're still in existence, like Bandai could just throw the mandate. They could throw the mandate and be like, we're killing the best of one rule or the undefeated rule. But that literally is kind of like almost a TO side thing. Like, PPG decided they didn't want to do it in Miami, and we did not do it. That's how simple it is. Like, George was like, hey, yo, guess what? That one player undefeated rule? Fuck it. And we just didn't use it. Yeah. Any TO could do that. But they choose not to because they don't want to be there from 8 a.m. to like literally like 11, 12 if it's best of 3. So like, I just need people to understand that yes, you can be upset, yes, you can be frustrated, and these frustrations are valid. But there are a lot of times things that either you're not looking at from a full scope, like the undefeated rule, punch a judge. Don't talk about punching Bandai. Don't punch anybody, to be fair, but be more mad at the TO staff before you get mad at Bandai for the one player undefeated rule. When you're looking at stuff like this, understand that yes, you needed time to plan. Yes, you need time to save. And Bandai never wants to create a tournament that just flops. That's not their intention. That sucks. That's bad publicity for their own game, and their game is their livelihood. But also understand that there are so many moving parts in the background that you will never be privy to because you're not part of the company. Like, if I'm like chilling at home and you guys are like, oh, are you free? And I'm like, no, I'm not free. And then like, I'm not married, but like my wife leaves me, I lose my job, and I don't know, like I have 3 illegitimate children that all sprung into my life at the same time. I'm not going to tell you all that. I'm just going to be like, yeah, I got free time. Like, and that's just going to be it. Like, you're not going to know all the stuff that's going in the background because you're not in that circle that needs to know. So like, that's just what I mean. Like if there's trouble getting a TO, if there's trouble getting a venue, you don't need to know all those things. And you might think like transparency be good, but be real. As far as companies go, Bandai is pretty transparent with a whole lot of stuff. And we still find ways to complain. Like George and I have brought it up plenty of times, but I cannot bring up a better example than just the flow of TP structure. These cards are useless. Cards become broken. This shit is awful. Cards become useless again. This shit is awful. We get thwarting. This shit is awful. Cards go bad again. Oh my god, Bandai, get it right. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
There is a balance to be had. But Bandai has legitimately catered to us time after time after time. And we just get mad at whatever they do. The game's go on too long. Overwhelms come out. The game's still go on too long. Mecha Frieza, turn 3 kills. Oh my god, what are you doing? The games are too long. Gogeta Zeno rears its ugly head. The games are too aggravating. With like King Vegeta, it takes time, but you can look at the stuff, and even if it's not in the time frame you want it to, because it takes them a certain amount of time to make and then print cards, you can clearly see the shifts of these things reacting to the time frames that we complain about them. We just don't ever stop complaining. So that's kind of like my rant on it. Yes, no card game is perfect, but you got to stop comparing card games. You really do. Different money is different money. Like, you guys all the time compare Konami to Bandai, and I think one thing you have to understand is that Bandai is a company that does video games. Bandai's card game company, you can almost think of it as like a child project. Like, I am fairly certain that Bandai's card department is just a smaller division of them. Whereas Konami, one of its, if not its largest part of income is Yu-Gi-Oh! So, like, there's just so many things that are, like, different. Like Dragon Ball Super is not going to be what's bankrolling Bandai.
No.
So when it comes to that stuff, Bandai is going to be much more likely to, pay attention to their cash cows as a whole company, and the subdivision does what it can with what they have, and they're doing stuff like that. Like, that's just business sense. Like, without me even being able to ask a representative, be like, hey, what's the status of this? Like, without me working there myself, any of these things, like, that's just business sense. Bandai's main meal ticket is not Dragon Ball Super, whereas Konami's main meal ticket is Yu-Gi-Oh! So if Konami has to just throw, like, a couple annual, like, just salaries at a freaking venue to make sure that they have the biggest tournament they can have for a specific point, they're going to do it because that's their stuff. That's their cash cow. So, like, please stop comparing these two. You can't even compare them. Like, first off, Konami don't listen. Bandai listens. That's it. That's all like the parallels you don't need to be drawing. Like, when was the last time the community screamed about a card and it actually just got touched? If it did get touched, I bet you the set's been out for 3 months already and they saw its sales decline and they said, all right, hit it. I'm gonna flip the switch. So, like, it's kind of wild. And you guys, like, talk about that. Like, Konami's seen the card go brazy for 6 months and has just now decided to hit it after it's been sold and we've been, like, under fire. So yeah, it's just, don't compare those things. And if I hear one more Flesh and Blood comparison, I just don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, if Flesh and Blood is so good, go play it. And when you don't do well there either, I don't want to hear it either.
Yeah, it's like you said, comparing kind of just doesn't. I mean, it's basically it's kind of tough to compare because there's always like a lot of asterisks associated with those comparisons. Like when you compare to Konami, like Konami is like comparing to Konami is terrible because that entire player base is like Stockholm syndrome. And like I'm sorry to anybody who's like a deep Yu-Gi-Oh player. And I even said so on like a team talk I had this weekend with the team where I said like people who love Yu-Gi-Oh honestly do it just because they love Yu-Gi-Oh. And whether that love is driven from like nostalgia as a kid to just sunk cost fallacy where you've dedicated too much of your life to it, that's basically your identity, you can't walk away from it. There are so many things that go against people trying to get into Yu-Gi-Oh. Game design's actually kind of ass. Like if you like from a game design standpoint, if you were to like take a university course on game design and like one of your like analysis pieces was like Yu-Gi-Oh, bro, dead ass your entire thesis paper would like the first sentence would be like what the fuck. Like so so game design wise it's not there. Pricing for tournaments is garbage for Konami tournaments, dog. Like you do not play a Konami tournament like a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament with the hope that you're gonna walk away plus you do it exclusively for the clout and for just because it's a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. That's it. Konami
There's a bit of an effect though. The secondary market is so bananas that they artificially inflate the value of every card worth anything to where you may actually make your money back, but not because the prizes were good, because any secret rare pull is all of a sudden $60 to like $200 because Ungo Bungo, I pulled it, I need to make money, and nobody questions the system, and so it just snowballs.
Bro, dead ass, the best plus you can do is flip your deck the moment you win the tournament with it. So it's just like, and Konami does not communicate with their player base at all. Master Duel dropped before their last trailer even popped off. We have no idea where that's going in terms of like Master Duel. We don't know like any, like the ban list is like a just spray and pray of like I hope my deck doesn't get hit this time. And the ban list exists solely to push metas and to push new product. So like, and the power creep does as well. The power creep exists exclusively to keep on pushing out new stuff. So there are so many things for Yu-Gi-Oh player. Like I said, props to Yu-Gi-Oh players because they play the game because they love Yu-Gi-Oh. Because there are so many things that are not done properly for the sake of that game. And the fact that the game is a big three is probably one of the big reasons it's still alive today. Is the fact that it's just been here for so damn long.
It has nostalgia for us, bro.
Yeah. And then Flesh and Blood, that's like Flesh and Blood is what, an American company, right? I think they made it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so it's an American company. So obviously they're going to drive and be more in tune with the way that the Western world likes these things to happen. Cash prizing tournaments, stuff like that. Those are things that we will never be privy to playing a Bandai game. And then there's the fact that Bandai is a Japanese company, which means especially Bandai in the form of using the Dragon Ball IP, which means two things. First off, there's just some things that are not going to work as well because one, it's a licensed game. And bro, let me tell you, Funimation and Toei don't fuck around, dog. So like, I wholly believe that the reason we got the dates that we did for the regionals is because it was the earliest time they were literally capable of doing it because of some approval or something somewhere in the pipeline would not allow them to do so beforehand. As someone who's like lived in the messaging front of companies like these, you want to get the message out and you just literally can't. So working with licensors sucks. Then there's the fact that Japan has Dragon Ball Heroes. The Dragon Ball Super card game will never live in the forefront of Bandai in the same vein that Digimon has kind of taken over, and in the same vein that One Piece is probably going to once that ends up landing. Why? Because of that very fact that they're never going to cannibalize Heroes. There's a whole promotional anime associated to it. It makes bank. It has history in that country somehow. So so on that realm, it's just there'll never be that level of commitment. But there's so much that goes for a game. You know, Bandai does communicate, like Chris said, the web and flow of TPs just goes to show that. And I'd still argue, like I love this game mechanically. Like I've played so many games, and mechanically, I still think this is the best one. Between Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Hearthstone, Pokemon. I haven't tested out Fab yet, but Eternal.
You're good.
Yeah. So it's just so it's just mechanically super intense, and we have some of the best card like our SRs and SPRs are honestly like beyond this world. I think they're incredibly gorgeous. So
our SPRs look like other games chase cards.
right?
It's not even close.
So I think there's a ton going on for the game, and it is tough to compare. I understand the desire to compare because at the end of the day, card game players are very transitional. Most people who play card games, odds are they've played multiple card games and then have eventually landed on the one that they like best. So naturally, there's going to be that tendency or desire to try and compare because, well, at the end of the day, if this game really is ass, I totally could just move to another card game, and at the end of the day, I'm slinging cards.
Heck yeah.
So there is that aspect to want to compare. But it is very tough because the situations are very different, especially with our specific game where there are a ton of restrictions around them. Not to say I never want to say though, like, everyone should like shut up and stop complaining, because at the end of the day, Bandai aren't our friends. They are a company that we buy a product from. And there is that back and forth in which they do deserve critique if something that the community doesn't like isn't told. But I will say it has felt like a long time since like the community felt like Bandai's done right. And I don't necessarily agree with that because I think there is a lot that Bandai has done some pretty good stuff with. So it's a give and take. And I know it's a hard place to balance because I think a lot of people wouldn't complain if they weren't passionate and didn't love the game. And I think it does come from a place of passion and love. And it's just, how do you find that balance? And the tough part is a lot of what people demand for or ask for, you won't see until 3 to 6 months down the line, minimum, just because of the way these things work, whether it's like with a set design or with the way that organized play is structured or whatnot. It takes a lot of time to get the shit in place. So it's a tough call. I mean, and like I said, we haven't gotten the whole message yet. While, those are the IRLs for Q2, there's the offlines, which presumably, I mean, I'm staying positive. There's going to be a good number of them, which will be hopefully great. And we've heard murmurs that even in the summer, at least in Canada, apparently there's going to be multiple IRL events, which that's down because we haven't had multiple IRLs in Canada. And, supposedly, but from the rumors I'm hearing, we haven't had multiple IRLs in Canada since like 4 years ago. And even then the events were dwindling from like 4 to 3 to like 2. And then like we barely had one in Niagara. So, I think
your place is what you're saying.
Yeah. So I'm remaining positive. I think there are some things that are coming down the line. Have things been a little bit slow this year? Yeah, but we've seen that across, lots of things with Bandai. That could be lots of reasons. They are releasing a new One Piece game, which means, maybe their team's focus is oriented towards that to an aspect. Which means that team is now, the TCG sub department is now handling 3 different IPs, 3 different card games. And we've seen slowdown not only with Dragon Ball, but we've seen slowdowns in Digimon as well. Right? Like they had Fest just like we did, but it took like it took a month for Worlds to happen, and even then, Worlds announcement didn't happen until a week before Worlds even happened, and then prizing wasn't showcased until the day before Worlds was live streamed. So in general, it's been a very weird first 3 months for Bandai as a whole, and that could be. And that could be because of restructuring. That could be because now they're juggling 3 card games. Who knows? So I think they're in a transitionary period. Now, whether that's for the good or whether it's for the benefit or downfall of the game, I think there's still, things that remain to be seen. But upside, set 18 looks like it's going to be baller. That ad video, now I think it's that way because it's a ad video for YouTube, which means that may count as a view, but that video has 2 million views, So like they're advertising, which is something that like, hey, so I think they do listen. While I do think that it would have been nice to have more of a heads up on these regionals. Views. Yeah, it's got 2 million views. The Dragon Ball
2 million views and we ain't got over 10K subs. All right, y'all slacking. I'm retiring from content creation for this game. Y'all hurt me. I could be eating right now. Off my channel. 2 million? Oh, I'm sick. I don't even know that many people like this game. I'm sick.
I don't think there is, but I think, hey, if you embed the video everywhere, it'll get views.
I mean, that's definitely fair. And they kept it extra mysterious, and I'm just gonna die on this hill. We see that we have Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 in blue, which, by the way, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I think that auto confirms that blue is gonna be the last color released.
Probably stretch
And
it out as long as they can until the movie stuff gets closer.
Exactly. And because Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 are thrown out here, like everybody knows there's gonna be like a third active villain. But the fact that they put Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 outside of all the other superhero cards, yeah. Yeah. There's definitely another villain that's getting a leader. On top of that, I think it's very interesting that when you see the Z Awaken cards, I mean, we can see that Goku is clearly going from his set 1 to Ultra Instinct. Vegeta, I actually did a lineup on my channel. Vegeta's character frame actually gets buffer when he goes from the Super Saiyan Blue to the Silhouette. So I think it's safe to say that's evolution. But Gohan and Piccolo's silhouettes do not change. And this could mean nothing. But the fact that Gohan has the same hair in his ultimate form as he does in that Super Saiyan form, and his gi is the exact same, minus some shoulder undershirt sleeves, and the fact that Piccolo's new form has the exact same shape as him, it's just the color and the texture of his skin are different. Yeah, I don't think it's that far fetched to think that the Z leader or the Z things, the Z cards for Zenkai cards for Piccolo and Gohan could be from the movie. I don't think that's that far fetched.
I think sounds about right to me. Especially since we do know that Piccolo is getting a new form, a new whatever, unlocked abilities, who knows what.
Piccolo about to eat. It's wild. It's crazy. Piccolo will get a new form before he I guess he's getting a deck. I was about to say Piccolo's gonna get a new form before he gets more than like 5 cards. But yeah, I mean, I guess that works. That works. I'm looking. Set 18 is probably gonna be Heat, and we're just so ready to be out of the Unison Warrior block.
Yeah.
The real question for me is that being out of the Unison block, will that stop us from getting Dragon Ball Hero themes?
No. God no.
Okay.
I don't think so. I mean, like, here's the thing. And just to put a cap on, anyways, keep your eyes out. We're probably gonna get some online regionals announced within the next couple of weeks. So hey. But yeah, I don't think so, right? Because at the end of the day, Heroes is the largest asset pool that we're pulling from, right? Like, I don't even know if our game even gets original assets. I legit don't know. I would need to like go through the entirety of what's available for Heroes and see if there's anything that they've used that they haven't used that we have.
Now that you mention it, I don't think so. I pulled assets that match assets from here off of like Google, and then I've seen a couple assets that have even been from Dokkan, but maybe Dokkan got them from Hero. So like, I really don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, they all share like an asset pool effectively. And the largest generator of those new assets and adding them into the asset pool that all of these different games, Dokkan, Legends, what have you, can pull from, they're the ones that add the most into it. So I don't think our game will ever stray away from having Heroes. Now, is it going to be like the entire set is Heroes themed, kind of like what it's been for like over half of the Unison Warrior block? Okay, maybe probably not.
Another.
Yeah, it'd be nice if the set wasn't focused around some kind of Heroes, whatever, hubbubaloo. But I think Heroes will always have an undertone in just about most sets that we have these days. Maybe less for the next couple, especially since there's the movie coming out. And, when the Broly movie came out, we had like 3 sets that had a large focus on that, which pulled away from the hero stuff. But I think when you get away from the hype of the movie and us pushing it as much as they probably will in the next 3 sets, if not more, odds are that that we'll go back to leaning into Heroes for a lot of things. So we'll probably get those undertones in there.
Yeah, I love to say, and actually something that kind of makes me sad is from what I can see, and this could just be like conjecture, but it really does feel like Dragon Ball Heroes is pulling punches. Like, we are getting some Dragon Ball Heroes things like Dark Broly and like Gogeta Zeno, but like, there are just things that like we have not gotten that were massive pulls for Heroes. And I think they're just trying to keep it because it's exclusive to Heroes and they don't want things being taken away from it. But like, for instance, we've had a whole deck on Gogeta Zeno, but how can blue Vegito Zeno is actually pretty heat. Like, as far as like that goes, like I don't really like these what ifs, but how can blue Vegito? I would, if that deck was viable, I would play that deck. Like, oh yeah, by the way, like when they freaking released half this stuff, like, do you know how many people love Super Saiyan 4? Do you know how many people loved the fact that they got a new version of Super Saiyan 4, which was totally unoriginal, that was just the god ritual being used on the Super Saiyan 4, turning them into Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4? The point is, like, pink apes are actually pretty ballin'. And I'm not talking about NFTs. Like, this is actually a really cool transformation that would draw people. If we had a secret rare that was Limit Breaker SS4 Goku and Vegeta doing the double Dragon Fist, it doesn't matter what, that card could be commemorative photo on a battle card, and people would still, that would be a chase card. Like, that card would drop nothing less than $600 off release. Like, it's not close. So I don't know what they're doing, because there's a whole lot of stuff like Broly has Limit Breaker or some crap like that. Like, there's a lot of stuff that they could be doing right now that they've suspiciously kept out of the sets. And what they put in the sets, like, I honestly don't care about Agents of Destruction. Like, it's kind of cool that all these nobody villains are coming back to do some things, but there's a plethora of DB hero related leaders and decks that I would throw out the window for a chance at Xeno Vegito or, Limit Breaker SS4. It's just things like that. We haven't gotten a Fu deck. How have we not gotten a Fu leader?
I am shocked that we haven't gotten a Fu leader at this point.
He's cooler than half the things they've released for Dragon Ball Heroes. Fu's on like 19 cards, got no leader.
True.
But I think that's what I mean. I think they're keeping certain things for themselves for the most part because it's exclusive and it's Dragon Ball Heroes content. I don't know. It's kind of weird. And it's like, as for, the Dragon Ball Heroes kind of taking away from things, people were like, well, why can't these games coexist? Why can't they? And I think it has to be delicate because Japanese culture in general, they love their competitive TCGs. They love them. There's hobby stores all over the place. That's why you can go over to like Yu-Gi-Oh sites, like OCG Thunder, and you can see like per week there's like a gajillion Yu-Gi-Oh locals, or at least there used to be before the pandemic. And I am fairly certain that if Dragon Ball Super had been released when, it had been released here, I'm not saying Heroes would die, but one of these games is played on an arcade machine, and one of these games can be found at your local hobby store where you were already going for Vanguard or Digimon or Yu-Gi-Oh or anything else, except it's Dragon Ball, which is one of the biggest IPs over in the country. And I'm fairly certain that a competitive Dragon Ball TCG would definitely do some damage to the numbers of people buying Heroes. And so that's direct competition. And it's not saying that Heroes would die. It's just that Dragon Ball Super fits right in line with things that people already go ape for over there. So I think that's a huge factor in their choices to not advertise it the way they do and their choices to not localize it the way they haven't. It's just definitely kind of a power play in terms of what currently makes money, what they sink things into. And it's kind of like weird. Like, if I want to go even deeper into the meta about it, since we don't have a promotional anime for this game, like if Heroes died, how many people would actually just lose jobs? like flat out. Like, you got designers, you've got programmers for the game, you got all the team that works on the video game, but then you also have the team that literally works on the promotional anime. And like, if this all of a sudden just dropped off the face of the earth, I'm like, actually, people are getting hurt. Like, there are people that are getting hurt.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's why we need our own promotional anime. We need a video game. Let's go. Online.
I mean, I'd be down. I don't see it, but I'd be down.
Could you imagine? Goku defeating, in a promotional ad, Goku defeats Vegeta, and Vegeta gets mad, saying the only reason why Goku won is because his most powerful form's already in the anime.
Bruh.
And then just storming off with his deck. Like, I mean, it wouldn't be wrong. Like, just wait until I get Ultra Ego cards. Like, pick up deck, pick up playmat, storm out.
Oh god, yeah, it's just weird. There's the IP lends itself so well, but then also so not to the entire genre. It's interesting.
Yeah, correct. What's next on the docket, sir?
So moving on from the regional talk, which again, always keep an eye on those social medias. for when Bandai does announce more into organized play. Reveals. So we've been jumping into set 17 Ultimate Squad reveals. Starting off with red last week and now jumping into black this week. So looking into the first red archetypes, the first one is Sun Goku, but effectively is the entire Grand Tour squad. And the entire archetype is very thematic in that not only do you start with a 15k spaceship unison on board, but effectively the entire archetype plays around filling in the spaceship, having people go into the spaceship. So you're putting your Saiyans under the unison to then bump up its markers, which also has Empower Red 10. You have a bunch of Spirit Boost abilities. You're playing cards from under the spaceship. So lots of things for this. Oh, and then its +0 is actually up potentially a +3. So so it's got a lot going for it. And the one thing I will say about this archetype before, like we get like, because I haven't done a deep dive into the cards, but the one thing I will say, bro, about like what I've been seeing this set is like, I'm telling you, there was one designer or the head compadre of the design squad as they went into their meeting, puts his foot on the discussion table. He's got those Nimbus socks just rimming right there, and he's like, "Gentlemen, nobody's playing Empower. Nobody's playing Spirit Boost. Gotta knock that shit out to 11 for this archetype."
I give you whoosh, Empower 10.
Oh god. So we've had Empower and Spirit Boost have been very lackluster keywords for the entirety of the Unison block. They tried to push them for boost and they never really got there aside from a couple of cards. So I think this set they're really going to be looking to try and push that as kind of like this is the sunset set. This is the final set we're going to get of the block. So they're probably going to push hold no punches when it comes to pushing every mechanic. As well as just really seeing where unisons can go. So the entire archetype relies around just getting guys into the spaceship and then playing cards off of that spaceship. And of course, the older GT stuff is playable as well from this archetype, which is really cool. So hey, if you've been meaning to play some triple flash and some combination attack pans like the good old days, this is as good as a time as any, more than likely. So it looks cool. I've heard good things about the archetype. I like everyone knows I don't play test. But from what I'm seeing, the archetype, I'm hyped that GT has come back. It's also good preemptive support for more GT because we do know that we're going to get a pan in set 18 with the reboot deck there. So, I mean, already backloading some support into that archetype more than likely with this one, which is super cool. So it looks thematic. It plays very thematically, especially with the whole spaceship motif. It looks like you're playing solid cards, well stated cards, good numbers. And the one thing I liked about Yellow Turtles was the fact that you started with a unison on board. Now, of course, in yellow, that doesn't mean as much as it does for other decks, but there's something to be said about a 15k turn 1 unison that just kind of chills there. So, overall, I think it looks decent so far. I mean, I know that you fiddle around with cards a little bit more and you go deep dive into those. I don't know about your take on it, but so far the GT Grand Cruise deck looks pretty okay.
Well, you see, the hours I spend not sleeping, attempting to outrun self-loathing, and making content for you guys, the listeners, the subscribers, I have indeed done little workarounds to the GT deck. A couple of things I'd put out is what am I? Now, I would say that the GT deck's power level is indicative of some future hits on the list, but we literally watched them make Soul Striker light, like just straight up sugar-free Soul Striker, and then not touch Soul Striker. So I can't attest to this, but what I'm going to say is if King Piccolo and U7 Goku are the exact same levels of power by the next set, there's literally I got some bad news for you GT players. I don't know I don't know what to tell you, but basically Yeah. Yeah. That's what I gotta say about that one. It's interesting in the fact that you definitely have you have a second hand under your unison. That's essentially what's going on. You're putting sands under there, and if you build your deck right, you're only putting the sands under there that can be taken back out. And you got most of these cards that play themselves, but then you've got the Pan SCR that'll play a Goku and a Trunks. And this is all fine and dandy. This is pretty cool. However, there's a couple things that are a little wild. One, you have to have red sands to constantly put under your leader. And it only constitutes as a second hand if these sands are archetype specific, because these sands all pull themselves back out. If it's not archetype specific, you're putting a card under and you're losing that card, which isn't the second hand. That's you just kind of negging. And that means that you do have to, like most of these Bandai decks, play a whole lot of the archetype for it to be remotely good. Now, that being said, the archetype does have some legs. You're putting out some pressure for cheap. But one thing that is kind of an issue is, and it's not actually an issue. It's actually the solution. But to make it the solution, they need to start hurting certain kinds of decks. And I know people are like, like, don't hurt things, don't ban things. But the fact of the matter is, Goku is a good deck. Like, U7 Goku is a good deck. But where it loses to King Piccolo is the sense that Goku still has to pay energy for shit. And King Piccolo is a freemium deck. And GT is almost the same way. Every single card costs 1 energy. Some cards cost 2 energy. And so at the end of the day, there will be turns and corners where you just get outpaced by a deck that is not bound by frivolous mechanics like actually paying to play cards. And so that puts you in a weird kind of binding space. That being said, this deck definitely has legs. I just have to inform you that if I ever catch anybody trying to show me a deck list and you've only got 1 GT spaceship, you're trolling, or you're just like, you're trying to just like make some weird funky statement. Because if this deck ever becomes tier 1, Kai, secret rare, becomes tier 1. And if your unison gets warped and you don't have another unison, that's game. That is absolute game. The entire gimmick of your deck is gone. Like, just pack it up. You officially, you're playing a vanilla leader. Like, it's awful. So yeah, 2 is definitely the move if anybody's looking to build. On the off chance, even if Kai isn't in the meta, you don't want to like really be in a game where you're in control and then you just get Kai on turn 3 and you're like, what? Why aren't you playing Vegeta? Why aren't you playing Pan? Oh no. And then just lose. So that's that. When it comes to Metal Real though, and by the way, guys, as per usual, whenever we talk about things, I generally just release videos the day before. So I have the archetype breakdowns where I go into Untap. I show you a deck list. I explain my choices. I go into Untap. I have them on both these decks. And tomorrow or whenever we actually have all the spoilers for Black, I'll be doing the same thing there. But yeah, in short, like, you're really looking at, for the Machine Mutants, a deck that unfortunately needed to be tested by different people. And I've said this a bunch of times. I agree with Espira. I think that Dragon Ball has the best card mechanics out of any game. But the only reason why I put Magic a step above is because Magic has people that test. People that actually know how to play the game competitively who test. Because I tried my best to work with Rodo, and after making a deck list, tweaking the deck list, making the video, tweaking it a little bit more after that, because I was like, am I missing something? I came to the conclusion that 2 lines of different text on Rodo could have made Rodo an absolute powerhouse. And those 2 lines are, Rodo needs to summon that 1-drop from the deck, not the hand. Because his turns are so tight that it's not even funny. Like, it's absolutely not funny. Like, you were really dependent on that opening hand. You can awaken turn 1 going second if you have 2 cards in hand, but they both are 1-drops. So once again, you're kind of flooding your deck build with the archetype cards. But again, if it was just from deck, you could actually open up 1 card and be able to go off. Like, just absolutely go off for the turn. And that would be wonderful. However, because it's like this, you have to open up with a 2-card minimum hand, and then they have to be specific, and then you can go into your other stuff. But the other part about him is he awakens to 6, and there's no card in the entire archetype nor the previous machine mutant stuff that works with him that can take a single life. So you awaken outside of testing the op range, which also is kind of whack because no super combo that works with him does anything at that life total. So I found in multiple games, your opponent can just shit on your entire field and never touch your life, and your super combos are dead until they want to start attacking you. And you awaken down to 6 with no way to take your life. So you can't even really reliably run test me opposition. So when your unison is played, it's generally open to be swung at, even with its great protection skill. Um, it's just bad. It's not like bad as in like unplayable. It could be a fun locals deck, but it really sucks because if I was on that team or if I was on like a board where they were just like, "Hey, here are these cards. You want to try them out for me and then see what's up?" I would have immediately told them, "This guy needs to awaken down to 5." Like you cannot hope to this deck taps out almost every turn. He cannot be sitting here going down to 6. Like your awakening turn should feel like your strongest turn, and instead it just feels like a mediocre turn where you're extremely weak on the backswing. Then you need to be able to play from the decks that the opening hands aren't too tight. Red is such a good color in terms of generic cards. Red is like, I think, only second to yellow in terms of how much generic heat and coverage is in the color. And actually, for this format, red might be above yellow because Vegito Unison poops on almost every single deck in the format right now as it is. But yeah, this deck can't utilize good red cards because it's so archetype dependent, and you can't hold any of them in your opening hand. You have to open up Rizu and you have to open up Ribbit and Nezu. You have to open up those two. If you open up those two, you're awakening turn 1. If you're going second, if you're going first, you're awakening turn 2, but you're tapping out to make sure you get your whole chain out. It's just really weird, bro. That's all I gotta say. It's small things like that just make me go like, dag nabbit, anybody play this? Like you guys put the effects together, I get that, but did anybody sit down and actually try to play this?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I'd say about the general Rildo deck
All right, all right.
is the fact that it feels like it's just way too scripted, um, and not in a good way, right? Like it feels like Gotank's level of scripted without the like insane support or ceiling that Green Gotenks had. So like not only are your turns going to look very, very tight, but you're in a color that can't really afford to tap out. And when you do, you need to have a very dominant board state to do so. So it's just tough. But I will say the saving grace is that they have some really cool singular cards. I think the new Planet M2 is a pretty dope card. I think that, for this archetype itself, obviously doesn't do too much elsewhere, but in general, that's pretty cool. I think some of the SRs are pretty dope, especially that Baby Unison.
Yes.
I think that card's hot. That card's hot. I mean, it's a 10K. It's a 3 specified cost red Unison, which 3 specified costs are very, very popular right now in red, especially since Vidal has been doing an extreme amount of work. It's a 10K Unison, but when you +1, you get to draw a card. So right off the rip, just drawing a card is always good. And then you get to unconditionally remove one of your opponent's battle cards and put it under the Unison. Also poggers. Which means like outside a barrier, you're basically able to remove anything, which is insane.
It is absolutely crazy.
And then you get 10K for the turn. So he's a 20K swing. Additionally, if you're tapped out, your leader gets an extra free 1K, which means your leader is now 16K, which means your opponent can't deal damage to you unless he combos for, as if he's like a 15K swing deck. Awesome.
Hand tax.
Yeah, it's effectively a free combo every single turn unless your opponent deals with it. And if they try to deal with the Unison because he's just a 10K, there is the fact that Baby has an additional permanent that replaces the damage by just bottom decking or getting rid of one of the cards that are under him. So the longer that Baby sticks around, and if you're not able to actually start getting rid of cards of him, he's going to be impossible to remove. So while I do think some people may fall into a trap and not play this card correctly, I do think this card is like super, super good.
Yep. And if your deck sucks as a general Real player, just hope you face a lot of Goku mirrors. And while you're still probably going to get absolutely folded, you can suck up their cards and then play them from under your unison using your deck. So that's very thematic. And I guess it's kind of funny. Like, just imagine you somehow like violent raise their 8-drop and then you suck up their 8-drop. You just play their 8-drop. That would be
Mhm.
Unfortunately, though, you probably won't have the spirit boost to sustain half the effects. But it is what it is.
Yeah. Moving on from that archetype, then we got the return of multicolor super combos. Some of which are incredibly good, some of which are situational, but in the right situations could be a great tech 2 of. I'm not going to go into all of them, but I think some highlights. Kefla could be kind of cool. Its removal post combat for a rested battle card could be interesting. You have the red blue one, which is effectively a 20k combo, depending on what is attacking you. You get to neg something 5k, you get to neg something else. You get to neg if you have blue energy, you get to neg a battle card or unison card by 5k for the turn, which is really solid, especially since trunk unison is huge. And then so that's if you have red, and then if you have blue, you get another -5k to a leader or unison for the battle. So no matter what, a unison will get -10k if you're a dual color deck. And then alternatively, you can give it -5 to a battle card or a leader, depending on what's on the swing, which effectively always makes this at minimum a 15-card super combo, which is great. It doesn't do anything else in that. You don't draw a card, but which is kind of why I don't think you run these as a 4 of. But nevertheless, is a very cool ability to have. And then the last one that I think is huge is Android 17 and 18, which is blue and green. And you can untap a blue-green multicolor. So effectively a Beerus for the archetype. Beerus super combo. I think blue-green is going to love this card. Android 16 having more free ways to untap to be able to rival some shenanigans, incredibly busted. So I think those are probably going to be the most impactful ones, but they're all cool. I mean, Vegeta is a little bit like Kek W. Hope you're playing Cybermen. Cell is fine. He's good for like successor decks, kind of. He's like a Nappa basically. You get like 2 super combos, which is kind of nice. And then Beerus is a 5k that could potentially be a 15k combo, which is kind of interesting. So
These are very interesting, but I'm kind of like,
I don't think they're as generically good as the old ones. I will say that.
yeah,
much.
but the old ones were snap. Like, honestly, the people that made Universal Onslaught, they were just like on a whole different level of power creep. Like the power level that came in that set still hasn't been really seen in full force till this day again. Like, it takes 2 to 3 sets for certain decks to feel as powerful as like most of the set 9 decks did upon release. So like, it's that man has been locked. He is, whoever that designer is, he's the forbidden one. And he's been banished because yeah, they really don't. The phrase is actually there. They do not make them like they used to.
They do not.
With the exception of Nappa, and even Nappa had its. Well, actually, I guess Whis. Whis was probably the weakest one back then. But Nappa wasn't a color combination that wasn't really being used too much back then. But like Beerus and freaking
Zamasu,
oh man,
and
Beerus,
Androids,
Zamasu, and Android, those were busted, dude. Like, it was just like, why? Like, these are so strong. like, huh? Like, and for me, it was crazy because as you guys have probably known, if you've been enough on these podcasts, you've been on my channel, I took a hiatus from after set 6 released until the release of set 11. So you can imagine, like, I left during Destroyer Kings. When I came back to a Universal Onslaught pre-release and saw these like super combos, I was like, hey, yo. I was like, hey, what is this? Like, what? This is insane. And you look at the way these go, and it's like Beerus is kind of like, I won't put him on Kek W tier, but Beerus is used in a very, very specific set of decks.
Yes.
Zamasu, though, Zamasu is out here going crazy. It doesn't matter if you're blue or yellow. You're just like, you know what? Maybe just throw one Zamasu in there. Maybe throw 2 Zamasus in there. And that card gets you caught tripping so often. You're like, I should sequence correctly and swing with a battle card. Yeah, look, I'm gonna combo out of that, and then it's Zamasi, so tap your leader down. Eat penis. And you're like, huh, okay. Well, maybe I should sequence incorrectly normally, but correctly versus yellow and swing with my leader. Okay, Nimbus.
Yep.
Or Forbidden Power at this point. And you're just like, So you're saying if you're holding both these cards, there's no way I start this turn without getting reamed. Correct. And you're like, all right, as long as I'm clear on that. Both doors led to like a drastic drop off. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't tripping. No, you're not tripping. It's broken. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which play is the wrong play? Yes.
Literally how it is playing against like Zamasu super combo. Like it punishes you. It literally punishes you for sequencing correctly.
Correct. So yeah, so those are super dope. My predictions, they will
Dipe is new word.
Hi, dope. So my prediction, these are likely going to be candidates for getting SPRs. We've seen them do that with non-SR cards in the past, and I do think that these will probably get that same treatment as well.
I will be upset. Nah, I don't think any of these are SPR worthy. I will be.
I mean, at least a 17 and 18. It's a Beerus, but for like blue green, which is a color that would utilize it the same way that red blue does.
Hear me out. The moment I could get into the set, because you guys have seen the box art. You guys, especially if you play Dokkan, you guys know what box art was on that top, or what art was used for that box topper. You guys should see that. That is we have seen that there is a Gohan Unison, a Super Saiyan 2 Gohan Unison, and the box art in the commercial, you can see that the topper is an SPR version from a very iconic scene. If I ever pull a green-red Vegito super combo SPR when that could have been Gohan, y'all need to watch out the pre-release, because I am extending my arm and I'm slapping the nearest person. Like, immediately. Harmicide, Will Smith. Like, it's... I hope these aren't SPRs. They will feel immediately bad, because none of these are going to be worth anything.
Maybe. It could be. I mean, who knows? I'm just going based off of what things they've done in the past, but it very much could not come to pass for sure.
Oh, no, I feel like it can happen. I'm just saying none of these
It'd rather, yeah, I feel you.
How to turn your box into an Ubernegg. Open one.
Moving away from that generic support, Toa is the first black deck that has been showcased this week. I think she's a meme. So her entire archetype is based around playing 5k tokens. She attacks and she plays a token. She doesn't draw cards. She can't awaken until she's either at 3 life or has a unison card specified cost of 3 in play. On her awaken side, she draws and then plays a token. And then you can discard a candidate card from your hand to have 2 more tokens. Now these have 5k combos, so you're effectively pitching a card to have 10k combo. But and then there's a Mira, who can then give one of your skillless cards blocker. And then the archetype kind of plays around playing skillless cards in your deck. So it's a skillless deck that plays tokens, is effectively kind of like where it's wrapping up to be. Like, I don't...
Sounds mighty green.
I don't know. I mean, I guess, it's not like black really needs help at the moment, so I don't totally like disagree with it. But like, I just... Like, honestly, I'm reading this archetype and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I don't... So, yeah, I mean, you'll have a lot of combo power, but bro, your opponent's secret IDs you, and you're going to feel like the stupidest player on the planet. So, I don't know. I really don't know how to feel about this archetype.
So, real quick, just refresh my memory. You have 80 tokens on the board, and your opponent plays Secret Identity.
Bro, they're all fucking god.
All of them.
All of them. Every single one.
All right, so this is the problem. This is the problem. But, all right, guys. This is a problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see it. I mean, the Unison's like kind of cool in that it has 2+1 abilities. one of which is a draw and like warp one of your opponent's battle cards, assuming you have a token on board to like kill to do it. So like it's fine. Like I get it. I don't believe in it. The hottest part about this
I
archetype,
don't believe in it.
the hottest part about this archetype is the awakened Toa, but like that's just purely based on art. So I don't know.
So there is a little kind of weird thing about this, all right? Couple things. We already know there are some cards that are going to put out like we know the Poutine, okay? We know the Poutine that came out last set. And before, Poutine was seen as a monstrous card, but the only issue is that it creates one token itself that you're probably going to burn the turn you summon it. And then the only other way you can get tokens is by, the counter negate. And to be completely real, if you play that and don't block with it that turn, you probably played it incorrectly. Like, you're supposed to soak up 2 attacks with that card.
Mm.
So the issue before was Poutine was a great weapon, no ammo. Well, now there's a whole lot of ammo.
True.
I never thought I'd say this, but you're gonna be having. It is a priority now to get rid of Poutine, because if you don't get rid of Poutine, Poutine's swinging on you 2 times per turn, and I don't believe she's unique. And while she's swinging on you multiple times a turn, she's also drawing. So Poutine by herself will be harassment that gets under Violent Raise plus an extra draw. And you'll be getting to turns where your opponent will turn a card sideways. Like, let me see if I can pull up Poutine right now to make sure. Is she unique? I don't believe so. I'm just trying to make sure before I make an ass of myself.
I don't think so.
Okay, so let me just look at this for 2 seconds. You're going to be getting to a turn where, yes, granted, Poutine is the magical number of 15, I believe, where, you don't want her to... Like, she's easy to get removed. She's just straight up easy to get removed, unfortunately. However, Poutine is at, in effect, and I'm getting there right now, don't rush me, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's rushing me, but I
so it doesn't have unique from what I'm seeing.
All right, so it doesn't have unique. So the thing that Poutine's going to do that's kind of funny here is she's going to be able to come out, all right, and then you're going to want to evolve into her, and there's a whole evolve chain, or you can Dark Overwhelm into her. So there's multiple ways to get her out. However, every single turn, if you do not remove her from the game, she's going to draw a card and swing at you for 25 and then 15 if they don't want to block with it. And there's going to be so many tokens on the board, I'm not sure if you're going to want to be that defensive and block with it. But imagine opening up to a turn and being on your turn 3, their turn 3, and they have 2 of these out. That's 4 attacks and 2 cards. Their leader turns sideways and makes the ammo for you to be able to do some of this stuff. And that's just kind of crazy to me. Like, that's a very powerful interaction. Now, granted, it can be taken down, but we need to see what else comes in this set. Because if Poutine is the standard for effects that are going to be working off of tokens, we may have some really, really powerful cards that are going to be working off these tokens. Because I would like to think that not even in their infinite wisdom, the Bandai dev team can believe that skillless and 5k tokens are going to carry a deck any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. It remains to be seen. I think there's some cool stuff there that you can do, but I don't know. It's the first reveal for Black. We'll see what the other stuff comes to showcase and comes to pass in terms of helping it out. There's some cute stuff, but we'll see if it comes together. At the end of the day, I mean, her Toa's Awakened side can also turn the Unison into a 30k double striker, which isn't nothing. So there's stuff there. I just there's a lot of ways to deal with that stuff too. So we'll see what comes to pass in terms of the archetype and what the rest of the black. Do we know what the other black archetype is?
There's another black leader.
Yeah. One. Okay, so there you go. So it's the one. So presumably should have enough room to be able to spread its wings. Obviously, because it's only one, because the other colors will take up more space. But even with the other colors taking up more space, it should allow for the archetype to kind of be able to spread a little bit wider than typically. So we'll see where it leads on that front. And that's it for the reveal. So far, pretty good. I don't hate anything I've seen so far. I'm not inspired by any of the decks so far, but I think the GT stuff looks cool. I think the red Unison coming out of the General Rildo deck is cool. And I mean, the multicolor stuff is dope. It's extra multicolor support, and multicolor is some of my favorite things in the game. And the black, so far, Toa seems kind of a meme, but I mean, there's some interesting discussions to be had in terms of like the things it can do at the very least. So,
Yeah.
so with that said, those were all of our main topics for today. We'll be jumping into the SC mailbag. And of course, guys, if you guys have any questions that you'd like us to answer on air, you can tweet at me at EspiraTV with the hashtag SC mailbag, or put the question in the SC mailbag category on the Discord server, and we will answer your questions on air. This first one coming from at Melon was taken. What is an archetype that you feel is just barely not strong enough to compete? And what cards would you want to see added in it in order to make it competitive? Hashtag
What a
SC mailbag.
What a sweet summer child, because you think that this is just one or two. This is actually 80% of the archetypes that are printed in the game, my boy, like, or my gal, depending on who you are. I don't know who you are, but
True.
there are most of them are like a dollar short, a day late. Like most of them are right there, but not there.
Yep. They say for me, it's set 13 blue Gohan. It always feels like it needs more to do with the 2-drop card. I swear to God, if you say red Gohan, I'm gonna come at you through the screen.
All right, look, I gotta work harder to pull off my wins. Okay, I have to work so hard to get wins with that deck when it should be easier. All right, it should be easier. The deck is undertuned. Its 1-drop needs barrier. All right. Well, now they're over there. Like, look, Piano stays on the field all day, but 1-drop Gohan can't have barrier. Okay. Nice card, bro.
Yeah. Is that your pick? Is that where you're going with red Gohan?
that's the meme pick. Honestly, there's so many. General Rildo. Like I said, I just discussed it right then and there. General Rildo could have had 2 lines changed on his card, and he would be not even 2 lines changed, a single sentence and 1 number on his card, and he would actually be a viable leader. All you just need to do with that leader to make him viable is play a 1-drop red machine mutant from your hand or deck. You just add or deck. And then when this card awakens, or you can put 3 things under a Sigma underneath the leader. Draw 1, untap 1, take your life down to 5 and not 6. And that leader would go from law, locals to I'd actually consider testing this leader in an open format. Other cards that just feel like they're not quite there yet. Like I said, this is how Bandai builds most of their archetypes. I'm starting to feel like archetypes aren't built with power levels in mind. Some of them are just accidentally better than others. I don't want to be like a jerk.
That sounds about right.
I feel like they make all these gimmicks, and just certain gimmicks get there. Like, they made King Piccolo, and they were like, lol, start at 6 life. Lol, come off the top 4 free. Oh, cycle through your life. And then somebody was like, hey, your life is like a second hand. And these cards are coming for free, so this is good. And they were like, huh? Like, I really do think it's kind of like that, because, like, you got to think about it. The hype characters are always going to be given the best decks, and this has been seen time and time again. UI Goku, it is no mistake that UI Goku has a slew of powerful effects. He's a powerful character. Look at Jiren. I am full. Like, when you look at Cross Spirits, Cross Spirits. Gohan had a whole bunch of cards that just filtered, and then just Divine Presence, and that's it. Like, that's why one of the reasons why it was kind of overshadowed by Vegeta when it first came out, because Vegeta had a better leader effect, better synergy with the Unison, a Unison that could be played from the deck with a TP, and then it could still play Divine Presence. Vegeta was just all around the better leader. But in set, Gohan was kind of like the throwaway, because they couldn't print a second Vegeta, and they had no intention on printing another Goku when Goku was probably coming a little later. But Jiren was... When you look at Jiren, look at how many cards Jiren had. Look at the effects that Jiren had. Look at, like, Jiren had some insane prospects. Spirit boosting to evolve on your opponent's turn. Like, he's going up the chain at turbo speeds. The fact that his boss card was like 35k, did all these things, minus something by like 35k through barrier or some crap like that. Like, they fully intended Jiren to be the better of the 2 decks, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
then what happened? Like Jared he's okay. But I think their scope of what's good and what's not good is completely different from us. Like they intend for certain decks to be better. It's just that sometimes accidentally, like they sat in this lab and the same teams made BR Broly and BR Gogeta, and they really thought that these were headliners for the set. When in reality, one was borderline unplayable. Like it's just unfortunately, it's how they create their stuff. Another thing that would be, just kind of good if for that set, for when they made Red Broly BR and Red Gogeta BR, if they just took away the clause of not being able to EX evolve for the rest of the turn from that one Gogeta, that deck
would have made all the difference.
That deck would have been amazing. You would have just started off on turn 3 by burning your opponent for 2. Like just take 2. Want to see me do it again? Like, that would have been amazing. Wow, what other decks? Oh my gosh. You don't ask a question because there's just almost every time you've looked at an archetype and you've gone, oh yeah. Oh man. Like
on the real?
Oh god, on the real.
Invoker.
No. No.
Yeah?
Nah. Invoker's still in a weird place. Like,
listen. We need a new finisher. That's all I'm saying. Like, they got rid of our burn card. Give us something, dog. All right. Okay, I'm playing. But realistically, I mean, like you said, I think I agree. Where it feels like they just make archetypes and they don't really scale the power level, and then it's just kind of like YOLO, hope it does well. Like I think they were banking on PyCon being insane, because the deck also got the deck also got 3 sets of TP support. Like it got a new TP card every set for 3 sets after it was released, and the set was garbage, and the deck is like trash.
Dude, PyCon is a deck where you can see your top 7 cards and know that for 7 draws you're not seeing shit.
Bruh, no, PyCon is like the fucking, like if we're considering like weapon tiers, like swords and staffs and whatever, bro, PyCon's like a fucking nunchuck. Dude, you are doing so much shit to accomplish nothing. Like, and half the time you might just be smacking yourself in the dick. Dead ass.
Here we go. PyCon, playing PyCon is like, it's like having like advanced observation hockey in One Piece, where you can see a second into the future, but having no physical conditioning. So some dude's about to punch you in the face, and you just have to eat it.
Yeah, and you're dead ass like, oh, sick, I'm about to take a punch to the face, dog. Like,
playing PyCon is like Sasuke activating the Sharingan and then getting his shit clapped by Rock Lee in that gymnasium. You literally look at the top 5 cards of your deck and you know that you have no place for this entire
turn. But on the real, if I had to choose a deck, I'd probably choose Satan Trunks. The life flip one. Like, now obviously I feel a little bit of ways about it because it's a deck I liked and they nerfed it by changing how revealing cards from life works. But that is honestly an archetype that I had been thinking about for the last 2.5 sets, where I'm like, honestly, it is on the cusp of being there. It can awaken early, basically as early as your opponent does, and the moment you do, like if your opponent ends up awakening on a point where they haven't taken a life away from you for whatever reason, turn 1 they can't attack, turn 2 they play a unison and they awaken, you can awaken right there and then. So you're an 8 life awaken potentially. You have built-in removal with your leader. You have one of the most solid boss monsters in the game. It's just that deck space is a bit tight. And you have potentially a ramp into a turn 3 boo plan, which is incredibly powerful. So you have so much, I mean, technically even turn 2 if your opponent's like really going ham and gets unlucky. So there is an incredible amount of things that are going for you for the Trunks deck, and it really just feels like it needs a couple of more cards of support to make it either easier to go into your lines, not require you to have so many Gokus and Vegetas in hand, or just facilitate the life aspect of your deck. So that's a deck that I'm pinned as like something that I really feel is like almost there. Now it's a little bit less because of the nerf, but nevertheless, I think kind of almost got there.
I mean, I can definitely see that being the case. I mean, I think it's incredibly rude how that deck just came out and like, guess who can't be crit under any circumstances?
Yes,
Me.
sir.
And I was
Yes,
like, that
sir.
like a leader ignoring an entire keyword. That seems pretty powerful. Like that's not silly at all. Like you just had a leader just ignore double strike. Like what the fuck? Like that just seems like a little strong. But it honestly that question is just so open ended because there's just so much. There's so
Yeah,
much.
like for every like on average, I think we can average out to every set releasing about 2 to 3 banger archetypes that see play in the meta, which means that you're effectively talking about 9 to 10 archetypes that could be missing a piece or 2 pieces of support to get there. If we assume that 1 to 2 archetypes are just trash and it really is no saving it, Pycon, then at that point you're like saying what, like 9 to 10 or something like 9 to 8 archetypes are like on the cusp, which it often does feel that way. So it's a lot of archetypes to talk about when we're considering like just a couple of inches you could give a deck to potentially get there. I mean, like we even saw it with the older leaders, right? OG Broly, it took one revamped field card to completely change that deck. Same thing with King Vegeta, not as competitive as the Broly deck, but nevertheless, the field card completely changed how that deck plays. So.
I feel like George is being super generous. I would like to say that each set gives us one absolutely head and shoulders above the rest archetype. And then they give us like 2 to 3 archetypes that can work if we put the work in. But inevitably, you will be trounced by better card value. And then the rest of the archetypes are dog water. And sometimes he's like I'm just gonna take the basic thing real quick. You look at Vermilion Bloodlines, Gogeta, unplayable. Broly, snapped the moment he got that TP card. SS4 Vegeta, unplayable because of Dark Broly's 30k blocker, and you just don't want that nonsense in your life. Baby, it was alright, but no reason to play over Soul Striker. Like these things were just kind of like weird. You had a bunch of decks that could do Majin Vegeta. You could high roll. It was like Gogeta Zeno before Gogeta Zeno was a real thing. You could high roll. You could low roll. When you high rolled, you felt like God. When you low rolled, you're like stupid ball, stupid deck. Like it's kind of wild how silly some of these like cards are, and you just look at them and you're like, how could you do this? Like literally, how could you look? Now, granted, there are some sets that are more key than others. I guess, yeah, no, I suppose your ratios are correct. Because I'm looking at the next set right now, and Launch and King Piccolo were very solid decks.
Yeah.
But King Piccolo was solid by accident.
Yeah, of course. So, like, I'm not saying cream of the crop, obviously, but I'd say there's, like, about 3-ish ballpark that usually end up seeing some decent play.
Hold on. Wait, I take it back. Launch, that's the end of the set. I think that's the end of the set. Launch and Piccolo were good. Janemba in set was dog water. Pycon was dog water. Lord Slug was dog water. What's the other one in here? Is it Turles? Is Turles this one? Oh my god, it's all dog water. Like, what's the yellow for this set?
What was that for?
Oh, this hurts.
What was the set? That wasn't. No, that wasn't Cross Spirit.
13. Oh yeah. We had Whis, or we had a Life Flip Frieza and Whis. Oh wow, the front page of this set is hot fire, and then the rest of it is like absolutely trash. Oh, and then we got Shroom and Salsa, and Gogeta Zeno, who would not be relevant for like 3 sets.
I think I was well within the ballpark for that. Yeah. We got Gogeta, we got King Piccolo, we got Launch.
You can't count Gogeta on release. Gogeta on release was trash. Absolutely trash.
It was playable. It's fine. It's fine,
bro. It did not have.
And then when we're talking about archetypes that can't be saved, Shroom and Salsa, Pycon. Honestly, Janemba, while he wasn't the best leader for the archetype was actually like deceptively good.
Archetype is good in Soul Striker.
Yeah, I mean, true. But I'm just saying people aren't used to blue aggro, so like you can catch people off guard with it. So that's I mean, true. Like here's the thing: if we consider the art, and we said the archetype just needs 1 or 2 cards to make it fix. Yeah, the 1 or 2 cards was just swapping out leaders. Bet.
Right.
All right, like, don't get me wrong, I don't love Vicious Rejuvenation when I'm looking at these leaders, but like, yeah, Whis was like okay. Frieza is like a meme deck.
Nah, you said Gogeta Zeno was playable when it literally has 3 TPs in the same deck. It was not playable.
Yeah. Well, sure, but like you have the 3 TPs that PyCon got, and you got the 3 TPs that Gogeta got. You know, like not all things built the same.
I mean, see, that's fair, but the TPs for PyCon weren't even bad. PyCon's just bad itself.
True, very true.
Like, if PyCon had a good starting point, my lord, like it would have been on that. If only these cards you scryed into did something.
So that's the thing. I'd say we can look into most sets, and the majority of the leaders would be like 2 to 3 cards away. Some not, obviously, but I think that's kind of where most archetypes, which kind of lends itself to having an argument for most archetypes. Now, moving on to the Discord. This question coming from Torax. Where do you think blue and generic ultimates go from Hatch, Pan, and Kai? And I will preface this by saying that this started from a discussion that happened on my Discord that same day. Where
generic blues?
Like generic ultimates. Okay. Yeah, so generic secret rares. And the discussion came from the Discord where they were discussing the fact that like there's no real unisons at the moment that could be printed that kind of come to par in terms of what Pan, Kai, and Hatch for blue decks kind of give them, right? Like, and it's kind of true. It's right, like blue. I can't even begin to fathom in which situations I wouldn't want Hatch to be at the helm of my blue deck, unless the archetype is doing something so incredibly specific that it needs to be another secret rare. And then we have Pan and Kai, and Pan and Kai kind of complement each other incredibly well, where in formats where Kai is bad, Pan is good. In formats where Pan is bad, Kai is good. And they complement each other in that kind of like 1-2 swap in terms of what they deal with. So it's this really, really weird position. And then like they're all just kind of free 40Ks, right? Pan literally can be played as just a 40K extra overall. So it puts into question, where do secret rares go from here? We got to that point when they were making finisher secret rares, Celzino, Apex of Power, cards like those, and it's like, okay, well, like where do you go from that, right? Like if you just happen to be a green deck or a yellow deck that can support going into a 12-drop, you just play Celzino. And then they moved into these utility secret rares where Hatch, Kai, and Pan now live, and it's where do you go, right? As a blue, I don't know. I think you could maybe make something aggressive, but there's something to say in blue about just getting a free turn whenever you see your secret rare.
Yep.
So I really don't actually know where we go from unisons that'll see as widespread play as Hatch does for blue and as Pan and Kai do for basically every other deck.
All right. Well, see, this is why Bandai needs to pay me. I'm not gonna say the big bucks. Just give me like some money so I can like leave my current job and pursue content creation. If I was on the design team, the route that I'd be seeing with this is secret rares benefit most. A player benefits most from a secret rare when that secret rare does something that nothing else in their deck quite does. All right. When we first got secret rares, the Vegito was just a bunch of swings at one time, almost unplayable. Hyper Evolution was very specific. By the time we are in set 9, Black Smoke is doing a whole lot of things. Cell Xeno is ending games. And to be fair, in both yellow and green, they did not have a card that just came down and instantly threatened game. They were taking away from your hand advantage, taking away from your board, tapping your board, stopping your plays. And Cell Xeno did something in those 2 colors that was not currently in that 2 colors wheelhouse. You look at cards like Hatch. Blue has a whole lot of cards that stop your attacks, bounce cards, but blue does not have a single card that just ends a battle phase or ends a whole turn, and that's what Hatch does. Pan allows any aggressive deck that normally would have to forego defense to be able to play Pan and potentially survive that turn very handedly. You also have the fact that Supreme Kai gave a full warp board wipe. You can't use the stuff for Overrealm. You can't do this. Certain effects don't even proc off because they don't go to your drop zone. Kai is capable of doing that. So the only way to stop these secret rares from being played are to introduce more effects in each color that do these things. Because if I can have a 4-drop that can do the same thing as my secret rare, I'm going to start looking at other secret rares that do things that I can't already do. If you want Hatch to stop being played, you need to give blue even better defenses than it currently has, and then make an alternative card that can help them win the game. Because if blue gets a finisher SCR that's very good, and they have enough defenses to go, do I need another SCR? Do I need another redundant turn stopping card that takes my SCR slot? Or do I have enough defense in my deck to protect myself and then potentially blow you out when I decide to drop whatever offensive SCR that's designed better than PyCon? But that's what you need to start doing. Like that's what you need to start doing. You look at like Vegeta, right? Vegeta is a really, really good card as an SCR. And right now, you have most of these decks like not being able to utilize the full effect of Ultra Mastery. But if Ultra Mastery didn't require like sparking Gajillion, there may be a case of still using cards like Pan in red decks, but using Ultra Mastery as your top end. Ultra Mastery is a kind of limited thing. Yes, you get the board wipe, but you don't get to rip the card. And playing 4 in a red deck, you really do need to get ultimate value off that card. But like that is how you dissuade people from playing. The moment black gets a close to free, like just stop your opponent from attacking or some sort of like, just interference like that, they will start looking at other things. Like if I have a Pan-like effect that costs 1, I might start looking at Kai more because I don't have many board wipes at all. But that's all you need to do. You just need to make these effects not as exclusive and make them playable. And people will start wondering if the 1-of slot of their deck is worth playing a redundant effect.
Yeah, that makes sense. Remains to be seen. I mean, at the end of the day, they could always just ban them, and that would solve that problem.
I was not trying to hit that because that is the easiest way. But if you ban Hatch right now, like that's pain.
Bro, that's so
like,
painful.
Blue's already in a weird space of like being a good color, but somehow not the best color. Like blue is really weird. Blue is that player who you're never going to expect to win the game, but he's going to put some points on the map. But that's not winning the game. Like if he's your favorite player, like you're going to always wear his jersey, but I mean, you're never going to be sitting here like kissing a ring or some shit. Like I don't know. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, the way I describe blue is every game is earned. There are some matches where like the deck really carries or the matchup really carries. If you do well with the blue deck, odds are you probably fought harder than most people at that tournament. Because most, if not every single one of your wins is like through just pure grind. So I'll give that to like blue players, and like losing Hatch on that front would be like incredibly feels bad just because of how bare blue is forced to play because of the design space that it just kind of explores at the moment. So it's a tough call, but I don't know. We'll see. Every set brings us a wave of 3+ depending on the set. New secrets, and we'll just have to see what kind of design space they try to explore now. I mean, Vegeta was a really good step forward for red, and we'll see how other colors are able to utilize similarly. Our last question comes from Neek. If you were to each design a new extra card for the Invoker archetype, what would it be and why?
No! Is that in your Discord or on your Twitter?
That's in Discord.
I don't care. Ban them. Sir, what is wrong with you?
The idea that I came up with from the Tournament of Power was when Krillin throws a stinky shoe helped KO an opponent being able to represent some kind of barrier removal for the art. I mean, the archetype already has barrier removal. You can use Death Beam as an activate main right off the rip, or as an activate battle minus 35k ignoring barrier. So it's already kind of fine on that front. This is obviously not Chris's wheelhouse. But if you had to ask me, I would love a more I don't know what it would be. But I would love a proactive Invoker card. So Invoker is obviously a very reactionary archetype. Almost everything you do is reactionary to what your opponent does. Negate, removal spell. Even the counter is extremely specific and extremely reactionary. I wish there were more invoker effects that would allow me to push my game plan on my turn. We see those. The two that exist right now is I forget the one, but it's the King Cold one that draws you two, and then your opponent has to neg if they're over 10 cards in hand. And then there is the board wipe. Now those cards are super dope, and I love playing those. And I would love and like I don't want it to be just straight advantage. Like, hey, give me something else that draws cards, but something that would do something interesting on my turn, so that I could play Invoker a little bit more proactively if the need came onto it. So I don't know, maybe giving my leader dual attack or something. And obviously, like these would be incredibly broken, especially with A17 living in the game right now. Those would be very powerful and busted. But like if we were gonna say in a perfect world where I got to choose what I want to do with the archetype, I would love something proactive. What it would look like, I don't know. Like I said, give my leader a keyword to do something, some way to kind of like change up how the deck plays would be super cool. And I think that's kind of where I would go. Something that allows me to be a bit more proactive than reactive would where I would want to go. But like Invoker already does so much, right? It has insane board control. It has insane protection. The leader can look at your hand twice per game. Like it's just really tough to balance.
I'm saying, dude. Like, I'm saying.
How about you, Chris? What Invoker card would you design?
I cannot give brain cells and time to Invoker when it doesn't need anything. Its time in the sun is over. Like, it's just, it needs to stop. You guys may think I'm being crazy with this one, but Invoker's actually not coming back. I'm sorry to tell you. It's really not.
Um, I think not
Uh,
not in the same way that it did before, but I do think there'll be a few players who are able to push that deck to a place where it'll do well.
I mean, and their names are Sublet, Legends, like Rios. Like, there's literally like 4 or 5 people that are gonna make like Invoker like really good. If you step the fuck out of your house and like get on as many events as possible, like you could be one of them. Like, there are gonna be a handful of very skilled Invoker players that do it. But at the same time, Invoker is there's no margin for error in that deck, yo.
Yeah,
Like,
you miss sequence
people
one turn and you're dead.
people are going to buy play sets of 17 and just get folded and feel like something's wrong with the game, but in reality, it was your brainstem. And to be fair, everybody is capable of making misplays, but like there are certain decks that punish you for missequencing, absolutely destroy you for missequencing, and Invoker is one of them. So Invoker will not just run the entire game because I mean you hate to see it, but there's definitely U7 Goku running around, and I'm sorry, as Invoker, you don't combo. And like, yes, you can hit people with Death Beam. Yes, you got a lot of good cards at your disposal, but U7 will just keep spitting out cards. And if King Piccolo doesn't get hit, sorry, dog. Like, sorry, dog, as well. Like, there is too much red running around and Gogeta Zeno turning their shit sideways every turn for anybody to be out here misplaying with Invoker. Like, that's just how I feel about that one.
It's pretty
King
fun.
Cold will come through and double strike you multiple times. Bro, when I saw this card and I looked at it, the Android 17, everybody's like, Invoker's back. I was like, as a Gohan player, I might side 2 more Champa. Like, I may just put you up to 40k double strike 4 different times off my leader and force you to try to have that negate. Like, did you negate me this turn? All right, 45k double strike. All right, this turn? All right, I'm doing it again. You got a couple more cards in hand. It's 65 now. Oh, that's 2 life in this leader swing got through, sweet. And then I'm just trying to pile my entire hand. Like, it's not as like simple as it may seem, but it's just like, yeah, a lot of people are just underestimating how much input Invoker takes to pile it correctly.
I think so too. And it's also why like I think people buying like obviously there's going to be a couple of players who just really absolutely need the card and are going to buy them at 100 a piece. But like already we're seeing the card be like 50 a piece on sell sites, and I wouldn't, and even then they're not all moving at this point. And it's because one, the player pool for Invoker is incredibly low. And then even beyond that, you know, players who can pilot it well, even less so. So we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see. I do think Android 17 changes the way the deck plays in a big way, but only if you really know how. And at the end of the day, even then, it's still a deck that requires you to have knowledge on like the entirety of the meta, because every matchup plays differently and you're going to need different cards for different things. So especially as a combo control deck, it's just one of those things you have to take into account for. And it's a deck you're going to need a lot of reps in. So
Oh,
So that's up with that. And those are all the questions that we have in the SC mailbag this time around, guys. And of course, reminder, if you guys want your questions answered on air, you can tweet at me at EspiraTV with the hashtag SC mailbag, or jump into the Discord and go into the SC mailbag channel and post your questions on there, and we will answer them on air. But with that said, that was our episode for this week. Before we sign off, Chris, is there anything you'd like our listeners to know, anything that they should be expecting from you this week until the next time we talk again?
We got a fight night coming out, U7 versus U7. That should be fun to watch. Everybody likes U7 Goku, and people seem to like my U7 Gohan. And it is a father-son deathmatch, best of 3 with sides, so that should be a lot for people to eat up. I won't tell you the outcome until you guys can watch it, but yeah, I think it was a fun game. Fun games. And then past that, we're going to be getting spoilers throughout the week for Black, so you can expect my my spoiler talk for Black. You can also expect me to, you can expect that. You can expect me to oof, almost felt a little weird there. You can expect me to kind of come out with the deck profile or overview for it. There's a lot of stuff you can expect. I'm just me pumping out content all week, for real.
Hey, there you go. On my front, you guys know I'm the stream guy. When I actually get on stream. Otherwise, please go to like Lucas or Kaoken Cards or something like that instead. He's way more consistent these days. But we do plan on streaming. Something that I might try and introduce this reveal season this time around is maybe doing a weekly review. Either I'm going to try to aim to do it on stream, but otherwise we'll see. Review of the colors, kind of like what Hearthstone and like Magic content creators do when they have reveal seasons, where they kind of just like rate archetypes as they start coming out. I know that you and other creators in our card space do that. I'm going to try and bring my own spin to it. We'll see. Depends how much time I got. I'm an extremely busy boy these days. But if I can get towards doing that, that'll be the new stuff that I'll try and bring to the channel in the coming weeks as reveal season goes. So, with that said, of course, thanks everyone for jumping into the Super Combo Podcast and listening in. And until the next time, best of luck with your top decks. Nothing.
I mean, I am the best U7 Gohan player.
Okay. Okay. All right. Bye, guys.
I thought it was known. I thought it was already known. What is there to dispute?